Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. Lots of news breaking this morning. In fact, we're excited to be joined by Congressman Ro Khanna and give us an update on what the heck is going on with Speaker McCarthy. Maybe he might be Speaker for only one more day. We will see whether Democrats feel like bailing him out. So we'll give you all of the latest on that. We also have Sam Bankman Fried, the one-time golden boy of crypto and of Washington. His trial starts today. So we'll break that down for you. Also some eyebrow-raising revelations from a new Michael Lewis book about it. We'll see how believable any of that is. We've also got some new details coming out of China about their property bust and how widespread the implications of that could be. Some updates with regard to Ukraine and Nazi revisionism. I don't know why. We just keep going in this direction, so we'll cover that too. We've also got some updates for you on that UAW strike, including a worker who is not a big fan of Jim Cramer and had some things to say.
There's some good stuff in there. Just want to say thank you to all the premium subscribers. You guys signed up big time yesterday to help support this new focus group. So as we said, we've got a focus group next week. It's going to be in the city of Atlanta with Democratic voters this time. So we're going to hear all of their unvarnished thoughts about Biden, about the primary, whether he should debate, the age, all of that. If you want to be able to help support our work, we're really upping the production value. We're sending multiple people down there. We've got our great moderator back, James Johnson, to join us for this time around with JL Partners. So this is a really good thing and a project that we're launching over here. And on top of the UAW coverage and others that we're able to support, that's what you guys are helping pay for. So breakingpoints.com, you can sign up for that.
All right, but there is another really big thing that is happening starting today, which is the trial of Sam Bankman Fried, one-time crypto golden boy and darling of Washington, now indicted for many counts of fraud for basically allegedly stealing a bunch of customer funds and using them inappropriately, including to buy his own giant mansion. He also, was implicated in all sorts of like straw donations and chicanery here in Washington as well. So with this trial starting today, Michael Lewis, who was following Sam Bankman-Fried around for a new biography, his book is, I think not coincidentally, coming out at the very same time. He gave a 60 Minutes interview and revealed something that is very interesting. Not sure if I buy it or not, but let's take a listen to what he had to say.
One of the most shocking passages in this book, I thought, came with this revelation that Sam had looked into paying Donald Trump not to run.
That only shocks you if you don't know Sam. Sam's thinking we could pay Donald Trump not to run for president. Like, how much would it take?
Did he get an answer?
So he did get an answer. He was floated. There was a number that was kicking around, and the number that was kicking around when I was talking to Sam about this was $5 billion. Sam was not sure that number came directly from Trump.
Wait. So Sam's looking into paying Trump not to run, and he actually might not have come from Trump himself, but he actually got a price?
He got one answer, yes. The question Sam had was not just is $5 billion enough to pay Trump not to run, but was it legal?
Well, why didn't this happen? Why didn't you follow through?
Well, they were still having these conversations when FTX blew up. So why it didn't happen? He didn't have $5 billion anymore.
What do you make of that, Saagar? Are you buying it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe somewhere, someone around Trump said something. I mean, I think it's probably worth explaining to everybody what effective altruism is, because it's something that people who are online and like nerds, people who are in Silicon Valley will know. It's effectively the principle, and you correct me if I'm wrong, where you become rich as possible and amass as much wealth so that you can strategically deploy your assets in the best way to achieve the most optimal social outcome. So the thing is with Sam is he, ostensibly was using his wealth to fund like pandemic preparedness, to fund congressmen who would align with his agenda. They also coincidentally did not believe in crypto regulation. Shocking. It's not always about effective altruism. It's not always, the altruistic part is a little bit secondary sometimes. But the overall point was in that scenario, that is the effective altruist dream. It's like, okay, well, I'm, worth what was he worth at one point? Like 40, 50 billion, something outrageous. He's like, okay, well, if I could just take, 6% of my net worth and then achieve a massive outcome, like just paying Trump not to run, that would be the ultimate effective altruist gamble. This is something that Sam Altman and a lot of these other guys believe in. I'm personally very dubious of the entire ideology, especially because it's all like privatized and doesn't have anything to do with democracy, but that's a whole other conversation. But I don't know. I mean, it definitely seems like something he would think. Like that he would think to try.
Yeah.
In terms of like whether it would work.
Whether there was an opening there or not.
I personally don't think so. Yeah.
It seems to me like Michael Lewis is a little too credulous in some of these exchanges. I haven't, the book is just coming out, I think, today, and there's an excerpt of it in the Washington Post that I read that, it kind of plays into these stereotypes that were created about Sam being like the boy wonder, the boy genius. It goes through this whole narrative about, oh, he's on this Zoom call with Anna Wintour, and he's also doing, 8 other different things at the same time, and he's playing video games and whatever. And so, I don't know. I like you said, Saagar, I could see him having this idea. Do I actually think that Trump would really be open to it? Not really, because the other problem for Trump, part of what Trump needs out of a White House run at this point is also to get out of his legal trouble.
Yes.
And no amount of $5 billion or $10 billion or $80 billion is going to solve that problem for him. The only thing that could even partially solve that problem for him is if he ends up back in the White House. So I'm skeptical that he really, that there was a real number, that there was a real possibility that this would come to pass. And also on the effective altruism piece, I did a whole thing on effective altruism that you guys can go back and watch that expresses my concerns. One of them you gestured at, Saagar, which is the fact that, these brilliant billionaire oligarchs are going to save us and understand precisely what the biggest risks to society are. It also can end up really ethically troubling because they tend to put a higher premium on things that are like long-term civilizational risks and allows them to hand wave away a lot of current, present-day manifest suffering.
Right.
So anyway, I've got issues with that, and I've also always had a lot of question marks about whether Sam really bought into this philosophy even, or whether it was just part of his brand and part of his cover. And I think that's the other thing you have to consider, both when, as we watch this trial starting today and watch all of that unfolding, and also consider these, excerpts from Michael Lewis's book, which I do intend to read. I want to read the whole thing.
I think I'll read it.
But he also is clearly a liar. Caught in numerous brazen lies. And this again, maybe it can come back to the effective altruism thing too. If he really thinks like, oh, if I lie, it's going to be better for civilization 1,000 years from now or whatever. Like those are the sort of justifications that he could have been making for some of his just like blatantly illegal, immoral, wildly unethical lies, stealing, manipulation, etc. So with all that being said, we've got the trial starting today. Jury selection starts today. Put this up on the screen from the Wall Street Journal. Their headline is "The star witness at Sam Bankman Fried's trial is his top deputy and ex-girlfriend. Caroline Ellison's testimony has the potential to be particularly personal and raw. She has pleaded guilty to 7 criminal counts, and she's also agreed to cooperate with the government. Prosecutors have said that she not only was involved in criminal activity ranging from bribery in China to defrauding FTX customers of billions of dollars, but also acted at Bankman Fried's direction. Her lawyer declined to comment. Bankman Fried himself has pleaded not guilty. His lawyers say prosecutors have not adequately established that Ellison acted at his direction. His spokesman declined to comment. And just if you guys have forgotten some of the details here, there were 2 entities. The girlfriend, Caroline Ellison, was in charge of one of them. And then the actual like crypto exchange where people are supposed to be just like parking their funds and then doing with them whatever they want, not what Sam Bankman Fried wants, what they want, FTX, Sam was in charge of that one. And so the allegation, which I think is pretty clear at this point, is that they were using funds from customer accounts, basically stealing that money to fund bets over on the Caroline Ellison run piece of this, and that there was whole secret code, et cetera, that was going on in order to try to, as crypto went down and they were suffering losses, they were trying to use customer funds to fill that hole. Obviously, that's theft. Obviously, that's illegal. Those are the allegations. And so the idea here is that Caroline, having been both the girlfriend, living with Sam Bankman Fried, being in charge of this other entity, will be the best position to say exactly what was going on. I thought they had a good quote here, Saagar. They said, at bottom, every fraud case is just a human drama.
Yep.
And Caroline is the likely vehicle for getting a lot of that out.
Yeah, because it's just all about accounting. It's like, we don't have the money over here. We need to be able to place bets, so we're going to take the money from over here. Who authorized that transaction? Who made the order? Now, given the multiple guilty pleas by FTX executives, I don't think it's that complicated.
Yeah.
Also, given the emails
True.
and immense documentary record, and as well as interviews and on-the-record statements by Sam Bankman Fried in multiple interviews now, I also don't think it's that complicated. He doesn't really have a particularly good explanation for how all of this went down. It revealed not only the unregulated nature of this like international crypto exchange, it also led to the collapse of multiple other companies that were embroiled with FTX, places like Binance, places like BlockFi, where I personally lost money as I did my whole thing about at that time. My problem, I think, with all of this is that it wasn't even sophisticated. Like the guy who eventually took over FTX in the bankruptcy was like, look, I did Enron. Enron was shell corporations, inflation of stock, a true like financial scheme that required a lot of complex understanding. This is just straight up fraud, like a Ponzi scheme of you put money in, I take it out, and then the more that comes in, as long as it's all backed by some fake asset, it's all just gonna keep going. And then the moment one thing got called out, it's like a rug pull from the entire company, and half of the industry just collapses overnight.
Yeah,
it's like stunning.
It really is. It's so hard to put yourself into their heads. Like, what were you thinking? And there was this very Wild West gold rush kind of mentality. He was hiring people, including Caroline. I mean, she had no idea what she was doing. She had no background in, making these complex trades, and she finds herself the head of this multi-billion-dollar organization. In the Michael Lewis excerpt that I referred to before, he interviews this other woman who ends up being head of PR and handling all of the scheduling and incoming and whatever for Sam, which ended up being immense, who also had zero experience and just sort of happened into this position. They're all living together. There's no corporate controls. I saw somewhere Sam couldn't even name the people who were supposedly on their board because it all just came back to him and his whims and whatever he felt like doing and whatever he could justify to himself, feeling like there was never going to be any scrutiny, like there was never going to be any accountability, like he was such a genius that he'd be able to keep all of these thousands of balls in the air and never get caught for the wildly illegal theft and criminal behavior that he was engaged in. So, I think it's going to be part of why this trial is important too, is because SBF and FTX, they were the biggest, they were the wildest in terms of the allegations here. But this was an industry that is nascent and is in a lot of ways unregulated, where a lot of times the regulators and certainly the politicians can't really wrap their head around it and haven't really figured out how to deal with it. There was a lot of intentional skirting and flouting of international regulations. At Binance in particular, they were intentionally not headquartered anywhere to try to keep themselves from being subject to any jurisdiction. So I think it also pulls back the curtain on not just SBF and what was going on at FTX, but this particular moment in crypto history when things seemed like they were, flying high and it was just going to be up and up and up forever. And underneath the surface, there were a lot of unscrupulous actors. There was a lot of fraud. There was a lot of just fly-by-night, seat-of-your-pants type of activity. So it's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold, to watch this guy who was once a darling in this town in particular, but in the news media, they loved him. They loved the idea of this boyish wonder, genius, wonderkind, et cetera. And to watch, how he attempts to defend himself from allegations that seem wildly indefensible.
One thing I'm really happy about this case going to trial and no plead is I want all this stuff to come out. I want open court. I want the cameras. I want the files. I especially want the federal election charges to come to light about who is donating to the schemes. I want people to take the stand under oath. Too many times these things get wrapped up with a little bow and you never actually know anything about what was going on deep below the surface. So I hope and pray that nobody takes a deal. It's very possible, though, that it could happen. He's facing a long time in prison. And it's not just him. It embroils his whole family. There are multiple crazy things that have come out in Discovery, like his father being like, if you don't give me $2 million, I'm going to CC your mother on this chain. I'm like, and this is, I actually have friends who have taken this man's class at Stanford. And they're like, he's he's one of the world's renowned tax lawyers. Is one of the most respected people in his field. And they're like, I don't recognize this person. I think that, to me, really what comes away is I think this amount of wealth is a poison. It's just poisons your head. Things start to feel crazy because at a certain point, he could manifest things of anything he wanted. He bought himself a $40 million apartment. He bought himself multiple senators and congressmen. He's buying himself dinner. The very day he's indicted, he's supposed to have dinner with Mitch McConnell. It's like the life all just becomes so surreal that it becomes reality. And I think, unfortunately, it poisoned every single person who was involved in this. And that's what every great fraud story is. Like they said, it's just a human story.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, and to go back to the Trump thing where we started, I can imagine him in that state, like fantasizing about spending billions to save democracy and get Trump out of the presidential race, et cetera. That doesn't seem far-fetched. That Trump was like really legitimately entertaining it and it told him a number or whatever. That piece I find far-fetched. But, you know, on the human piece of it, maybe it's a small detail, but just to me, it shows you what a POS this dude is.
Oh, yeah.
Caroline, who was his girlfriend and, you know, his partner in business, and they're living together and whatever. When Sam is under fire and after she is now cooperating with the government, he leaked all of her personal journals to journalists to try to make himself look better. And he's such an idiot in this certain way that he didn't realize that actually the contents of those journals and the very fact that he would be so slimy and underhanded as to do that to a person, it actually really backfired in terms of people's perception of him. And it's what ended up landing him. He was under, you know, what do they call it? Supervised, whatever, house supervision. He was like able to stay at his parents' mansion while he was awaiting trial. And once that happened, the judge was like, no, your ass is going to jail.
Good, yeah.
So sometimes the smartest people can also be the absolute dumbest. And I think we have seen that with Sam Bankman Fried.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.